Okay, so have you ever felt like you were trying to lead while you were also overly compressed or overly stimulated or unable to release any of the mounting internal pressure? This is the Culture Focused Practice Podcast, and I am your host, Dr. Tara Vossenkemper. This Owner's Room episode is really about leading from a place that is not baseline. It's when you are emotionally and existentially and cognitively and neurologically, man, you're tapped out, like you're fucking done. There's either too much input or there's too much content or there's too much context. And generally speaking, there's too many active channels that are open, all basically funneling towards you. And if you've listened to any of these episodes so far, you should know that an owner's room episode is not intended to train or teach you on specific content. It's not listicle, it's not bulleted. It's really an exploratory type of space. And so this today is an exploration into what it's like when leadership continues inside conditions that don't allow for discernment or clarity or relief, and what it can really feel like and mean when there's not a clear path back up to baseline, but stopping is not an option. We will do this exploration by way of 6 questions and 1 scenario. So I will ask myself these questions. I have done no prep. I don't have scripted answers. That would be fucking torturous for me. So this is just all in real time as I'm talking. You're hearing what's coming up. And that's basically it. We're just going to dive into the questions. Question number 1. What does it actually mean to lead from not baseline when there's no immediate way to change the conditions? Ugh, what does it actually mean? That's a funny question. I sort of feel like saying, I don't know what it means, but one of the implications, for me anyway, one of the implications is that nothing beyond what is can take place. Like there's no capacity to do more to move things forward, and there's only capacity to exist. Oh my gosh, I there's a book called The Diggingest Dog. I don't know who wrote it, but my oldest, who is at the time of this recording, he's 8.5, he got it when he was a baby. And in the book, there's a dog, and they name him Duke, and Sammy Brown gets him from the store, and Duke learns how to dig, and he just fucking does it. He digs everything up everywhere in the story, and he gets in trouble basically. And Sammy Brown is like, I'm gonna take you back to the store and you'll never dig anymore, something like that. So Duke gets scared and then he basically runs away from Sammy Brown. He digs a hole that goes straight down. And what happens is he dug so deep, he dug a well, mud and water up to my chin. What a fix he now was in. And that's the visual that comes to mind is Duke in the bottom of this well, not doing any forward movement because all he can do is stay afloat. In the case of leadership, I think it's just a tiny little bit different. We probably have some angle to the well that we've dug that we could figure out how do we literally claw our way back up. But the experience of desperately treading water and knowing that there's other things you need and want to be doing, but you cannot move to them. You can't move beyond where you are. For me, that's what it means. It means that in essence, I'm stuck. Like I'm stuck exactly where I am. Nothing bigger that I want to get done will, because all I can do is focus on right now. What is the literal next thing that has to get done, which is probably already also late. I also think about, well, how does it feel? Well, it feels like Duke and the diggingest dog. It feels like treading water, but with a sort of desperation. It's not just like I'm treading water and it's fine. It's fuck, how do I get out of this? Like I'm in a real bind. I'm in a real pickle. What do I do? How do I get out of this? So I don't want to say fear, but I think there is a sense of probably like urgency, maybe some fear. That's fear is not the right word. Desperation is the word that comes to mind. Like that's the feeling, is a sense of desperation. Because also it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for Duke to tread water forever in this well that he dug, and it's not sustainable for leaders to maintain whatever they have their hands in perpetuity when they're already feeling depleted and, not at baseline. So that's my answer. That's it. It's a great children's book for the record. I love it. Question 2. How do you recognize that the problem isn't insight or resilience? It's volume and constraint. I don't do this well. I don't recognize this well. And I think it's just having a pretty long history of carrying shit, like, sort of a background banner or something is like, I'll just get it done. I can get it done. I'll figure it out. Like that sort of sense. How I can come to that recognition is usually through quite a bit of external processing. And that historically has been through, well, I would brain dump stuff. Like I'd get a 24 by 36 size Post-it sheet. They have like the giant poster board Post-its you can like write on and throw away. But with the Post-it, it would be I see everything on paper and I can sort of conceptually group things and physically like manipulate what's there and then maybe rewrite in a way where I have priorities and timely things that need to get done. And it helps me feel better. It's like, oh, whew, okay, cool, that's doable. Now I feel like what I've started doing is the same or a similar process, but into a chat GPT thread. And I will just word purge for 5 to 10 minutes, like I'm voice to text talking, anything and everything that is heavy weight in my mind. And I'm saying to chat at some point, either in the beginning or at the very end, help me synthesize this. Like, help me make sense of what is going on and why I'm feeling so intensely about X, Y, or Z. Since I started doing this, one of the consistent themes has been the volume. Let me clarify this. I don't personally recognize, like my meaning on my own, that the problem is volume and constraint, like time constraints, role constraints, whatever. But it also doesn't really feel like resilience. Like I've never doubted, like I'm resilient, I can do it. Like that's not the thing either. It usually is where I question that I'm like missing insight about something. Like I must be missing something. What am I missing? How are people doing this? And that's typically when I get the pushback, like they're not. Like you're expecting too much to be able to do all of these things is expecting too much of yourself, basically, that it's volume, in other words. So maybe the long and short is that I'm not good at this. I don't do it well. But what I have learned is that I need to do this through external means. And the most effective thing that I found to date is ChatGPT. So that's a whole last separate conversation about the maybe ethical and like future relationship we have with AI. But what I will say is that it's been incredibly helpful. Okay, I think I've answered that question enough. Question number 3. Where's the agitation pointed right now, even if you can't fully act on it? Man, for me, the agitation inevitably ends up pointed at shit that has to be maintained, like payroll or even stuff related to podcast production, like that sort of thing, or doing things like fucking website updates. Like there's pieces of the group. What I've realized, like there's pieces missing, these small little pieces that aren't full roles in and of themselves. Like we're not missing an entire role at the practice, but there's some core responsibilities that are not where they should be. Where they are is with me. Where they should be is not with me. That's ultimately it, is like I keep getting, it almost feels like hamstrung. Like I'm hamstrung by fucking maintenance, like shit that really has to get done. It's like non-negotiable. Like if this isn't stuff that I can just like, I'll kick the can down the road. No, like it has to get done and it's time sensitive and it requires my focus and attention, but it's not in and of itself enjoyable. Like I don't enjoy payroll, for example. And you might be thinking, what the hell, Tara? Why don't you have a payroll person? Yeah, that's the goal, is to have like someone doing payroll and benefits administration, but it's not here right now. And the shift I was going to make fell through. And so it's like, fuck me. Okay. Whew. I guess I'm still in this hole. Let me just keep treading and try to figure out, okay, what's the next path? Like, how do I, again, there's that desperation, of being like in a hole, feeling that desperation, needing to get the fuck out of it. That is where the agitation is pointed, is those three things actually specifically: website updates, which sounds ridiculous, but I could get into like, why do they still live with me? But it doesn't feel worth it. Just know that's a whole separate can of worms. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Website updates, payroll, and benefits administration. I would lump that in there. And then also podcast production stuff. Like, these three things happen consistently, and I hate them. I love episodes. Like, I love talking. I love recording. I love talking with people. That's fun and easy. That's about it. I don't want to do anything else. And so when I get in these situations I get myself into, but also when I'm in situations where I'm actively doing things that require me to consistently tend to them, but I'm not like really enjoying them. And also they don't stretch my brain in the way that I really feel like I can like flex, it just fucking sucks. It's draining. It's the whole digging piece. It's the desperation. It's the overly compressed. It's the overly stimulated. It's like exhausting in all the wrong ways, basically. So those are specifically the things. There's might be more, but those three things in particular feel like key areas that are receiving agitation. Rightfully so. That's where my agitation is pointed to. Okay, question 4. So what happens internally when you can see the pressure source, but you don't have a clean lever to pull? Oh, I mean, I feel like I'm talking about this already, but what happens internally? Oh, I mean, agitation is sort of this obvious answer. That's kind of a given. I think that, I think the language I used earlier was like a mounting internal pressure. That is how it feels, and that there's no release valve. And so I just feel like I have more and more heat and energy and frustration and agitation growing inside of me. And I have no single fucking place to get rid of it. Like, there's nothing that allows me to exhale some of this intensity. That's a half lie. Some of the exhalation comes from being able to focus on a project that I'm like really wanting to bring to life. It's when I get to, in essence, choose where my time goes. What I'm also realizing as I'm talking out loud right now is that it's probably been 6 or 8 weeks. I think we're coming up on 8 of a fucking disrupted schedule. And I hate it. I hate it because when my schedule is disrupted, shit is less likely to be done when it needs to be. And then if I go to sit down and I might have the time to work on a project, instead I'm cleaning up my own fucking mess because things aren't done when they need to be. Not to mention with the holidays, which we're sort of coming out of the holidays. I don't know when you're listening, but this is post holidays still. My husband and I have been like toying with schedule changes, like how we're operating on a daily basis. Long term, this is going to be great. Short term, what we were doing wasn't fucking working. Like, was not working. I'm just going to say that. And so I think there's something too about like this pressure that's been mounting and growing is not only related to the things I've been doing, but also the ways in which I've had to engage with the work that I don't want to do, and not having time to do the work that I want to do, like the shit that I just want to sit with and like, let my mind go. Where are we going? I'm just sort of following almost like whims and urges, not in a, hmm, not in a, there's no negative connotation with that, but it's like allowing the felt sense of like, where do I want to go in this moment? Where is my energy wanting to go? And trusting that. I haven't had the space and time to do that. So there's no clean lever. That would be a little bit of a lever to pull to release. It'd be a release valve. I should say that, not really a lever to pull to clean everything up. And again, the result is just a continued growing sense of frustration, agitation, internal restlessness, etc. Okay, I'm going to keep going now because I'm pretty sure I've exhausted that question. So, Question 5. What does clawing your way back up actually look like when there's no obvious path forward? Oh, that's a good question. What does it look like when there's no obvious path forward? Hmm. Okay, so I think this is almost like a developmental process because initially what it looks like, let me press pause for 1 second. All of this, I want to say this out loud because it's dawning on me that it feels really important to say. I think there's been this insight and sort of shift, and I think I've talked about it on the podcast. I know that I have. I sort of entered into this wintry season, and from that came a lot of shedding, honestly. Came a lot of like saying no to shit, getting rid of shit, just kind of like sitting and being comfortable in more of a quiet space. From there, which remains true, honestly, like there's still a sense of like sort of internal quiet, I should say, maybe like deeper roots. Maybe that's a better way of saying things. From there came this realization. Like only in the stillness was I able to see and feel some of the deeper frustration about some of the things that I've been maintaining that I actually want no part of. And this is also kind of in the, um, I don't know exactly what word to use, but there's something that's happening for me as well. It's kind of like conceptual grappling with the a concept of noise and signal. And what I have been realizing lately is the noise in my life is too loud. And it's so loud, in fact, that I'm not even able to sit still and listen or look for long enough to be able to note any signal on the horizon. This stuff that is coming up right now, like the payroll, like the podcast production stuff, including like editing some of the videos, like that's part of what I mean, like the website maintenance, all of that is noise, and it takes up enough time that I'm not able to access signal. I need signal in my life. I think we all need signal in our life. So I'm saying all of that to say that's how I got to today's episode. Like that's how this is coming up. That's sort of the process of getting here. And so what does clawing your way back up actually look like when there's no obvious path forward? If I'm coming back to question 5, I think it is a little bit of a developmental process in that initially it all was just noise. And I had no idea why I was even feeling like I knew shit was loud and I was frustrated, but I couldn't have said, it's this, like, this is what's wrong. So there was no obvious path forward. It was just me feeling frustrated and like, this isn't it. Like something's off, something's wrong. I'm like fucking annoyed. I'm agitated about this, but I don't even know exactly what this is. And then in sitting with that, because there's no other option, it's still things that have to get done. So I'm consistently being exposed to shit that I don't want to do, growing in frustration. Then I start to actively grapple. In that active grappling comes the kind of specific things where I realized these things in particular. Fuck these things. I don't want anything to do with them. So that feels like the developmental trajectory. There's probably more. I'm sure there's next things, more things to come. So I think what I'm trying to say is that when there's no obvious path forward, clawing your way back up doesn't actually look like clawing your way back up. It looks like trying to figure out what you're even mad or frustrated or really agitated about. That's what it is. I think I'm also wary of even talking about it like this because it's not poetic. Like it's not pretty. It's not clean. It's just feels like this messy process. And if there is no other option, like if you can't claw your way back up, then I mean, fuck, we might as well try to take stock of what's happening around us and try to make sense of like, okay, what's the thing that's actually the most fucking frustrating in all of this? And then maybe let me see if I can fix that. And so that is probably my answer. The clawing your way back up when there's no obvious path forward is to try to figure out what's the closest point of your frustration, like the closest to the source point of your frustration. And then in the identification of that thing or those things, there's at least some sort of faint fucking path that you're going to be able to see. So I think that's what it might look like. I think that's what it can look like. Sixth and final question then. Fucking hell. Okay, how does sustained overstimulation change the way you prioritize, decide, or tolerate friction? Oh, I mean, all I'll say is that it significantly decreases my tolerance of friction. It significantly diminishes my ability to decide, and it also fucks with my ability to accurately prioritize. So I don't think that's what the question's asking, but I want to talk about this first. Like, if there is ongoing sustained overstimulation, I'm not going to prioritize well. I'm not as good at deciding and not deciding well either. And I can't tolerate any additional stimulation, honestly, including excess friction or extra friction. But if I answer this question exactly as it is, so how does sustained overstimulation change the way you prioritize friction, decide about friction, and then tolerate friction? Actually, no, I think my answer is the same because I am going to deprioritize anything that's going to create friction. So if there is something, for example, that the group needs, let's say some fucking system, I don't know. And also I'm in an overstimulated, maintenance focused, can't let my brain run and I can't use my time how I want to state of being, I'm not going to add that system on. Like, there's no way because I know I don't have any capacity for that thing. The questions that come along with it, learning how to do it, running point on how it fits in with the vision, like, none of it. I'm not going to be able to do any of this stuff. I'm not interested. And so I'm not going to prioritize anything that might create friction, especially the addition of something new. The removal of something that is creating friction is an easier conversation, but something that is going to create some friction, even though like maybe it is positive, I'm probably going to push it to the next quarter or just later. It's going to have to be done later. Same as with deciding. It's really hard for me to, if I'm feeling especially overly stimulated, and again, I have been for a while, it's really hard to decide on something. That's so fucking funny that I'm saying this out loud because I'm realizing right now there is something that I keep stalling on. And it's not something that is, has major implications immediately for anybody on our team. Like, it's something more vision oriented, it's something more marketing oriented, it's sort of longer term in focus. But the reality is, I'm not making a decision. Like, I keep not making a decision. And I think it's because of all of the noise to signal ratio being so fucking off, and the ongoing like drain of reserves of energy and capacity that I have. I don't have it in me to decide about something that is not immediately pressing. And even then, I might try to stall that out as much as I can. And then same with tolerating friction. How does sustained overstimulation change the way you tolerate friction? I mean, I feel like it's obvious, but probably for most of us, I assume this is the case. I have less tolerance for it. So if there's something that continues to be kind of a thorn in my side, I'm either going to get rid of it entirely if possible, or, I say that I might then question, like, what the fuck is the point of this? And if I can't actually ground it into like a core value or something with ROI or something that's beneficial for a lot of people, it's going to get the boot, like it's getting the axe. But then what I also might do is lean into like if it's something, let's say, related to people, I might lean into a disciplinary process faster than if I wasn't as overly stimulated consistently. I'm curious what I'm thinking about Taylor. I'm thinking about my integrator and my DCO. I think I'm interested in their answers. I'm wondering if their answers would be similar to mine. Like if how I'm talking about this is more of the norm for like most people, or if there's some um just nuance with people, like temperaments and how they might deal with or change like prioritization and decisions and tolerance of friction as a result of feeling overly stimulated. So, I don't know. Okay, I think that's it with questions. We are going to move on, folks. We're going to move on to a scenario, you choose. I had two to choose from. I have two here, but I'm only going to do one. They both are very good, but we're going to do one. I will read it and then I will just riff from there. So, you keep scanning for an exit that doesn't exist yet, not because you're afraid to act, but because every possible move creates a different kind of problem you're not willing to absorb right now. So the pressure stays internal, the agitation stays contained. You're still leading, you're still showing up, you're still doing the work. But the longer this goes on, the clearer it becomes that something has to give eventually. The question isn't if you'll get back to baseline, it's how much strain your system can carry while you figure out how. Ooh, that ain't the fucking truth, man. That is so, so for real. Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind for me in this is like, if a boat is sinking, what's the shit that you can throw overboard? What extra weight is there to throw overboard? Maybe that's actually part of the tolerating friction or like decision making stuff when there is no energy, when there is no capacity, when all of your faculties or a lot of them are like running thin, I think there's something that happens. And there's definitely a real extreme version of this happening. Like there's a worst case scenario if this pendulum swings too far. But I do think there's something that can happen where shit gets the boot. Like when you're doing something and you don't have it in you to contain or to maintain it, and something's going to give, the stuff that gives first is either the sort of the weakest in the system, think about like the weakest link or like, um, where is the system? If you apply pressure, where is it going to crack first? So it could bring up something that really needs to be fixed, which is just a whole nother added layer of like, damn, like now you've got more to fix. Or it might point out stuff that isn't really that valuable. And so I think that what I'll say for myself historically, and maybe for a lot of us, again, I just don't know, is that when there is the clarity that something's going to give eventually and that this isn't sustainable, like how long can, our system maintain this, can carry this? There are very clear things that go first. Like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. It's like immediately there's shutdown mode. It's like your fingers. If you're freezing, your digits are going to go first. All of your body goes to heating core components of you so that you stay alive. Kind of feels the same. So, what we don't want is to lose our fingers and toes. And I think that a leadership team can be really helpful here in that if you say, I'm going to shut down this, your leadership team might say, hang the fuck on, like, hang on, hang on. How about we just try one thing or two things? Or, girl, I think you might be a little bit overwhelmed. Like, how about we figure out what to get the hell off of your plate, if anything? Or how about we just push pause on things for 3 months or, whatever. If you don't have a leadership team in place, it can be that you are like cutting shit off left and right. And at the very extreme end of the spectrum, when you're feeling much more stable and like your system isn't overwhelmed with everything, there might be some regret about certain things that got cut off. Maybe not, but there might be some where it's like, damn, I went too far. Like I should have kept this and this and this. This would have been an easy option to like um maintain that, but not have it be in my hands, etc. So I think a leadership team in particular can be helpful when you're like in this state, going to them and being like, I can't do this. Like I can't do this in this way. Here's what I'm thinking we get rid of. What do y'all think? Or having them just push back immediately. The other piece to this that I'm thinking is maybe there's a need for that grappling. Like if you are, again, I just keep thinking about Duke in the well, the self-made well, but still in the well. And he is um treading water and rhyming about what a fix he now is in. And if we were to take that and make it a little bit more like leadership, again, I think there would still be a well or some sort of like ditch or giant hole. There's probably more of an angle to the hole. And so there is a way you could get some traction going up somewhere, but the more that you try without looking, the more that you keep sliding down. And so there's something about, how do I take stock of my surroundings even when I'm feeling this sense of desperation? And it kind of feels like there's no option, because if you keep trying to get out and you keep sliding back down, then you're going to keep sliding. So what's the alternative? Why don't we just fucking tread this water miserably, mind you, and see, okay, what have we tried? What is the worst fucking path to take? Or what's the worst thing about being here? Trying to isolate that variable. Again, in my case, it'd be something like payroll and benefits administration. And what's the plan for getting rid of it? Okay, that is, and then it's sort of like the minute you do that, the path lights up a tiny little bit. You see this faint glimmer of, oh, I could follow this route, that route there, and then I can latch on up there and get out of this. Or at least that gets us to the next tier. Maybe it's like a 3-tiered, not cliffside, goodness gracious, a 3-tiered track to get out of the ditch, out of the hole. So I think that that's another thing, is that if you don't know right now what to do, that doesn't mean you won't know. And if you've tried a bunch of shit and it keeps failing, maybe, I hate saying sitting still because I don't think that's exactly it. Maybe wrestling with it just to try to figure out what's wrong rather than trying to solve it. There we go. That's the distinction to me. I'm not trying to solve something. I'm trying to fucking understand it as deeply as possible, because only from there can I then have insight about, okay, what do I need to do then? If this is the core issue of what is frustrating, oh, I see. That's what I need to do then to get rid of it, So I think that's what I think. There'd be the grappling with it. I do think it gets really clear about what you want to keep or what you can cut out and not. But the risk is cutting out way too much. So having like leadership team around you, for example, or at least a couple of sort of trusted people to bounce ideas off of, or maybe just grapple with about what to get rid of, or the timing of getting rid of things, that can be really, really helpful. There's one more thing that's coming to mind, but I hate even saying this because I don't necessarily, mm, I don't really do this for myself, although I have had colleague friends do it. And so, and I would, if I was working with somebody, I would actually recommend this. I think there's something too about giving yourself a deadline, something about how long am I willing to sustain this? And if I reach that point, what drastic move will I take to be done with it, whatever it is? Because I also think in some cases, here's another thought that I just had. I think sometimes people sustain things because of the emotional something that gets in the way of letting it go. I know for myself, if I can't see a system clearly, it's hard for me to pass it over. So I spent, I think, all last quarter really externalizing my payroll process. And so at this point, passing it over, not an issue. Now I just need to find a person to do that, and benefits administration, finding people, I fucking hate doing, for the record. I hate being the one to do the hiring stuff. I love hiring processes. I do not enjoy being a person who does interviews and sets up. Ugh, bleh, I hate it. Don't like doing that at all. My point is that there might be something about a system being hard to let go of that you currently are owning, but that same system is weighing heavily on you. It's one of the things that you realize, this is the root cause of me being stuck in this fucking ditch or well or giant pit. I hate doing it. I hate everything about it, but giving it up is terrifying, and I don't know how to trust somebody to do it. Your choices are, based on what I'm hearing / making up about this, one, you stay in the ditch and keep doing it. Two, you deal with the emotionality around giving it up. That's kind of it. I think identifying which thing is happening for you in terms of what's the thing that you are frustrated about? What's the thing that keeps you there? Or a couple of things if there's a few. And then maybe a second piece to this is what's the emotionality around it? So is there something that's stopping you from giving it up? Because it could be not only the identification of the thing is important. I know for me it's always helpful to just clarify, like, what is the fucking crux of it for me? What is at the core of, like, what am I so frustrated about? Relatedly, what's the emotionality around the thing that I'm frustrated about? Obviously, I'm frustrated, like that's a feeling, but is there something about giving up payroll that is really difficult to do? If it's not clear, yeah, it's difficult to pass this over unless I'm very clear about what it is I expect, the timing of things, who does what, where it lives, etc. Once that's all clear, no, I don't have any issues. This is good to know because now this means in a hiring process, or if I'm going to bring somebody on to do this, I will have less of an issue actually delegating this over and more ability to just audit when I so choose. Something about video editing. If there's something about giving it up, the same emotional stuff comes up for me. It's about trusting somebody, but also being clear about what it is that I want. So if I go to give something up and I don't know exactly what it is that I want with it or I don't know how to clarify with somebody else, this is what I want, I'm not going to give it up because I can't even say to them what it is that I want. And then if they do something and I don't like it, I'm going to be frustrated and either have to go back in and edit or tell them, yeah, this didn't work for me and have them do it again. And then they're asking me all these questions and it's just all of it. All of it is just ends up being there's something about giving something up. I know for myself where I have to be clear about the specifics of what it is that I want and what I expect done in essence. And then I can delegate this thing to another party. So again, saying that to say, if you identify what the thing is that you are especially frustrated and stuck around, or the things, plural, I think spending a few extra minutes or hours grappling with the emotionality around it as well. It is not unrealistic to think that there is something in there for you about, emotionality around whatever the thing is. So, holy moly, I think that I'm done. I think that I'm done talking about this. I I don't always think that there is a clean bow to put on something. This process to me is messy, like, going through it, I'm pointing, like, at you, at myself, this process is messy. I think that most iterations of who we are as people, I think most evolutions, I think most developmental processes that we're in, I feel like it's all fucking messy, especially when you're in it. And I do feel like I'm kind of in the thick of this thing, and I've just gotten to this point where I see these faint sort of pathways up because I've been able to identify what are those core sources of frustration? Like, what are the things that feel like they're constant constraints and keeping me sort of, oh, like compressed in? Not necessarily like the walls are closing in, but like if I'm 5'8", and let's say the box is meant for someone who's 5'6", so I'm just like slightly shy of being able to fucking stand up straight, like that sort of constant, constraint. So, not pretty. That's all right. I'm okay with that. What is pretty, however, is you being here with me. I love the concept of time and talking about it, but I also will say that I love you spending some with me. It means a lot. So thank you for being here with me. What I will also say is do one of two things for me, especially if you enjoyed this episode or relate to this episode. One is subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. You stay up on new episodes releasing. It's easier to find and listen to old ones. Two, if you know somebody this will resonate with, please share it with them because I want this to hit people who need it. So that's all from me. I will see you on the next episode and have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.